Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if we have any community members that have never attended a board meeting, just for protocol, please sign in if you plan to speak during new business. You could do that at any, at any point during the, and then once we start our voting on agenda items, that's going to stop. And members of the audience have 3 minutes to address the board.
It says.
Okay?
I've been trying to call you.
Hopefully we'll be able to patch Chris in.
I'm going to call you right back on the other phone.
So officially, since we're not, are we ready to patch him in?
I'm going to call him in.
We'll just hold off for a moment to get Chris on again. Unfortunately, Mr. Montori had a personal reason he had to leave and was unable to come in. That's why we were running a little bit late. We wanted to make sure we still had a quorum, and Mrs. Zachary's out of town, so we're getting him through a teleconference. And Mr. Nicoli had a family situation he couldn't attend.
Hello?
There we go.
All right. Chris, you missed the Pledge of Allegiance. That's it. All right, so.
Chris, I'm going to put a mic next to the phone, so
Okay.
you might want to
Thank
mute
you.
yourself.
Okay.
All right, good evening. Board President to advise members of the audience that they may address the board regarding agenda items after the superintendent's report. Only those members whose names and addresses are listed on the sign-in sheet available prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized during new business. The chairperson will limit discussion of any item by the public to 3 minutes in order for the board to expeditiously conduct its business. Before I turn the meeting over to Mr. Dolan, I just want to express my appreciation for the community's participation online, through email, through text messages, through the PTA channels. The board operates as a function of the community, so we're trying to be reflective of you, and we're working, to reflect what you're communicating to us, besides what you're communicating to the district on surveys. So to that end, there were some disparaging remarks regarding the last board meeting, which I thought we tried to conduct ourselves civilly, and I want to apologize to Mr. Montori specifically because he was attacked personally, and he is a volunteer for decades in our community, and because of his microphone being in and his side discussion, with Mr. Karpluk, which upset some community members, I was unaware of it. I would have pointed it out to him, but I was conducting the meeting and addressing the audience. So I just hope that we can have a civil dialogue tonight, because I think we did last week, and more questions will be answered tonight. But I just hope that moving forward, you realize we do carry everything that the community says to us to heart, and we represent all of you. So with that, I just want to turn it over to Mr. Dolan.
All right, before I do my report, I do have some people I want to acknowledge, and I'd like to thank everyone. I wasn't able to be here last week for all your well wishes. Reports of my demise, I guess, were greatly exaggerated, but it was very kind. Some of the messages I got, but we're here, we're ready to go, and there is a little bit of normalcy in what I'm about to do. And this is going to happen sometimes belatedly because of what's going on in the world and just the kind of warp speed and the fluidity of what's going on. But last week we got a resignation, or I shouldn't say a resignation, a retirement from Mrs. Lisa Haller, and we didn't really get to pay tribute, and I hope at some point in the not too distant future we're going to invite all the retirees back. I think some people are making decisions maybe a little sooner than they would have thought. But I just want to read something. I asked Dr. Smith to, help me out here. And Lisa was a dedicated employee for 27 years in the district. She shared a love of teaching with all her students and her colleagues as well. And this is very telling. Her leadership amongst the teachers was evident. She was collegial and collaborative and supportive. Most recently, she was, as Debbie termed it, a beacon of light, transitioning to Google Classrooms and sharing a zest for learning with the JFK community and developing meaningful lessons for the children through online assignments. So right up until the end, that's the definition of a lifelong learner. That's what we want. I really wish that Lisa, and I hope Lisa will be here. Like I said, not too distant future, and we'll honor all the retirees. And Debbie said the JFK community and all of East Islip will miss her tremendously. We'll always remember how much she emphasizes the need for rigorous instruction, especially in math and science, and how she loved her rocks and mineral lessons. Congratulations, Lisa. And again, wherever you are, I believe you're watching tonight. From the bottom of our heart, thank you for all you did. Think about that, 27 years. You touched the lives of many kids. You planted a lot of seeds, and kids grew up to be better people because of their relationship with you. So, Lisa, thank you very much. Another late-minute entry, one that I would see in the hall over district office quite a lot, Fancy Nancy Grossman, as we like to call her, the psychologist extraordinaire. She had, as Aileen O'Rourke said, she had the best wardrobe on the floor, which Lisa Bells would dispute sometimes, but and a vocabulary to match. Nancy was a dedicated psychologist. She began her tenure here in 1992. She is compassionate, caring, dedicated. She has served as an elementary building psychologist, a middle school psychologist, the CSE chair at district office, and Nancy's going to go on to enjoy, I think, her family. And again, like I said, I think that given the state of the world, people made decisions, and I wish that we could honor them in person. But we thank Lisa, we thank Nancy. I'll have a couple of more, I believe, next week. At the next meeting. There is a normalcy, to the changing of the tide, and anything that strikes as normal during this time, I welcome with open arms. Also last week, it did not go unnoticed, but I'd like to make a special thank you to FTK. They did make a $75,000 donation. You're going to see some really, I think, and you've already seen some beautiful signage, some EI Pride things, the hill over by the walkover bridge. FTK has been a friend to this district for 20 years. They have, donated over $1 million to the district, and, I think that, once things calm down a little bit, I'd like to give a big shout out to Madam President, Mrs. Pat Blair, and her executive board, and all her members, because they really, really do enjoy just doing nice things for kids. They do enjoy donating things across the board, whether it's with the arts, athletics, academics, or just beautifying our campuses. So we're lucky to have FTK. They're a long-term partner, and we truly appreciate all they do. And you will be seeing some new signage around the property, and it will have a little FTK at the bottom of it, so we'll always remember where it came from. Now, at this point, I know we're going to have some discussion later on during new business, old business, the public comment period. No doubt about it. If you had said to me, and I know they said to me in the interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? When I started here, never in my wildest dreams that I think I'd be sitting where I'm sitting right now. This has been an incredibly trying 6 months. We have to make some very difficult decisions. And quite frankly, there are no decisions that are going to make everybody happy. We have to make decisions with the health and safety of our children, first and foremost, the health and safety of our staff, our faculty and staff. That's the forefront. We have to have vision for the future, and we have to have, empathy and compassion for the present. And we were tasked with an impossible task. There are no choices. There are no choices that make me happy, other than all of us being back in school together. Quite frankly, that's physically impossible. We are already hearing, from neighboring districts who've begun to go back, that this evil virus is creeping. And, I think, as Jessica alluded to, emotions are running high. And I'm going to admit it. You know, I'm almost 60 years old. You know, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm scared. I'm scared to get sick. I'm scared to make a mistake. I am terribly, you know, I'd be afraid to end my career with a bad decision. But I will say this, I'm going to sit here, and like we've done, I'm going to listen. And yeah, I have to listen to the people that don't necessarily agree with me a lot more than the people that agree. And the people who are happy with the decisions that come from the superintendent's office, oh yeah, I'm not going to see them. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, and I will sit till the very end with those who are unhappy and try to explain why the decision was made. You know, we put out a hybrid plan, and I am, you know, as difficult as it is, I am proud to say that it evolves. It's going to evolve. Everybody wants, you know, a rock-solid answer that's going to fit and going to stick, and that's just, you know, and I'm not placing this anywhere else. You know, look, I know what goes on in other places. I know that the politicians have tough decisions to make, but my job is to make decisions in the best interest of East Islip. And I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm not going to hide from it. And, you know, we are going to stay consistent. And as I've said, we're in a hybrid mode. You know, we're going to look at that hybrid mode over the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a chance to test our technological infrastructure to see if that needs to be upgraded. And then, you know, by the beginning of October, listen, let's be optimistic. Maybe we will be all back together. But if we're not, we'll be able to, you know, we'll be ready to pivot, and we will be able to educate the children to the best of our ability. You know, I know the spring was not exactly what everybody wanted, but we never saw that coming. In fact, I said, you know, I just said this morning, a year ago, we were sitting in meetings excited that we were going to be able to get one-to-one devices for maybe 2 grades, and get East Islip into, you know, the technological world of education. Take a big step. You know, somebody said to me the other day, we bought 13, you know, we've ordered 13 grades worth of one-to-one devices. It's almost like we bought the car and now we got to put the gas in it. All right, this is not going to be an easy ride, but one of my all-time favorite lines in a book, you know, it's supposed to be the spiritual development book, The Road Less Traveled. And the first line of the book is, life isn't easy. And this is not going to be easy, but we're going to get through it together. Just on a technical note, there was no change to the elementary times. I know it was discussed, so the elementary times are back to normal. High school, middle school schedules will be ready tomorrow. Guidance counselors will be available next week. You know, the first week of school especially, for our, you know, our 2 cohorts that are going to be in the hybrid model. I keep saying those are going to be heavily dependent upon getting to know you, social, emotional, you know, getting to learn how to live in a COVID world. Content is important, but right now, you know, I would say the first week or 2, it's going to really, we're going to have to develop good, healthy routines before we can dig heavily into the content, which honestly is not unlike most years. You know, most of the time, the first month of school is a lot of getting to know you. Only this year, it's going to be getting to know you and how to live in a COVID world. For our virtual people, who we did extend the deadline, and then we had several people who came in after the deadline. We had to come. We ended that today. We've got approximately 300 people. You know, they're going to follow along in the Google format for September, and we'll be launching our virtual lessons for them in the beginning of October. So, and one last note as far as the schedules go. Two more notes. You know, we have, over the past several years, been pushing the schedules out a little bit later. And this year, we had an incredible challenge trying to balance schedules. I walked into Mr. Bernard's office the other day, and he told me he had a class with 18 people in the front of the alphabet and 6 people in the back of the alphabet. And it sounds easy, you think you just move 6 kids and you'll be okay, when in fact, you have to look at all the other classes that they take and try to make sure that those children get the classes that they wanted. So my hat's off to the middle and high school guidance counselors, my hat's off to the administrative teams at the high school, middle school, and the elementary schools, because they have been asked to do in the last couple of weeks, essentially reschedule their buildings, which can be a process that takes months. So I appreciate all of their time. And one last thing, I know we had said in our original plan that gators were not going to be allowed, but gators will be allowed as masks. And so we're, I think that's the end of the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Dolan. At this time, if there are any public comments on agenda items only, we have a number of agenda items for the meeting. No? Okay. Certified personnel. Mr. Zachary, there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Great. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leave of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law, as cited in the certified personnel attachment. You got a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Non-certified personnel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with the applicable provisions of education law and civil service law, as cited in the non-certified personnel attached. Got a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 5 items on the consent agenda. Would you like anything removed for discussion?
No.
Okay, then
No.
motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. Old business.
We gotta go. We gotta
Oh, I'm
do
sorry,
appropriations.
9.5, sorry. We have 4 appropriation changes. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approve the attached list of appropriation changes. See, I was just going to lump that in with consent. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Steve, can you just go through those quickly, please?
There are 2 appropriation changes on the agenda tonight. The first one, we moved money from a software code to a textbook code to maximize reimbursement in state aid. And the second one is an additional software product being purchased. So we just moved money from a BOCES code to the computer software codes.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Old business. Do we have any old business that we'd like to bring up? Again, this is
No.
a new scheduled meeting, as we have already had our business meeting last week, so this was just to address additional board business that we needed prior to the beginning of school. So new business. I'd just like to start with thanking the administration for making the decision. I realize a lot of community members were concerned about their students and complying with the masks during the day, and we want everyone to buy in, and some of the students have been wearing masks since the spring that were the gaiters that pull up like a scarf. So I appreciate the change, and I think that there are conflicting research on if they're effective, if they're not effective. What's not effective is if they're not compliant. So we need some kind of face covering, and I think that the parents that kind of bought them as school supplies, in the droves to make sure that they had clean, will appreciate that change. Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Any other new business?
No.
No.
No? Okay. Public comment. Marie, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Ready?
Yeah, we're ready when you are.
Craig Gordon.
Can I take this off and?
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you for your time. I just have a couple of questions. For starters, I have 2 children in elementary school, and we kind of want to know what the remote is going to look like on this hybrid policy. That's one. Do I just keep going?
Go ahead.
All right. I have a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and I just don't want them to hate school. The second part of that question is, the days they're not in school, and that's what I'm concerned about, are they watching a live lesson? And then if they're watching that live lesson, when they are in school, are they being recorded? Are parents, like, if my son does something wrong, are parents going to hear, little Johnny is bad or something like that? I just want to know what's going on during those virtual days and if they're being recorded, because we're confused there. And if there's a schedule that's going to be involved. The second thing that came home today was this health screening form. I don't understand the language at the bottom. They're talking about 100-degree fever, and they say that if the student has a 100-degree fever in school, he or she will be sent to a designated isolation area, picked up. The student's family must contact their primary health care provider for further assessment, and then follow local health department guidelines as advised. What is the local health department? I have to call the health department if they have 100-degree fever. Do we have normal sickness anymore? Or? And then it says in there, which can include a 14-day quarantine. So the end of that, this student daily health screening form is I don't understand what we mean there. My next one in there was, it gets really hot in September. And so with my kids with the masks, I know they've told me when we've been shopping, oh my God, it's so hot and they're sweaty. If they get dizzy or if they, God forbid they pass out or someone passes out, who's watching them for that, and what signs do we have? And then are they now COVID? Like, are they going to be sent home and then we have to go through the whole COVID thing? So I'm concerned with the mask. I'm a teacher. I work on a 3rd floor. I worked 2 days this week. It was crazy, but I was able to go in an office and take it off. And I think that was my last one, right? I'll ask one more for someone else. These computers we're getting, what is the liability on the parents? We have a broken screen, or is there any insurance policies that are going to be offered? What is broken? I don't know. We're kind of concerned about that as well, right? Thank you.
Jenny G. Lovato?
No, actually, I'm just going to address some of these, Marie, before we call the next person. Actually, just to piggyback one of his questions, a healthcare, someone in the healthcare industry in the community also contacted me regarding the, I realized the language in that attestation for parents to fill out, if anyone was exposed to COVID. So the problem is if a parent is, granted the numbers are low now, but if the numbers go high, how are we going to deal with that? We're going to have some kind of guidelines for parents that are in the healthcare industry or public service, and they're not sure if they're, so that language was also questioned by another community member. But Rich, would you just explain what if there's insurance option for the devices and what the parents are responsible for?
So the 6 through 12 laptop computers have a 3-year service warranty contract. If it breaks, it gets replaced free. The Chromebooks are varying of different years. The price of buying insurance for those Chromebooks for 1 year is about 3 times the cost of replacing them. So what we will be doing is if a Chromebook breaks, if it's a screen or if keys come off, the students will bring it into the library that day. We'll give them a replacement. We have in-service people who will be able to fix it. But we aren't offering insurance for the Chromebooks.
And this is our director of technology. And Mr. Dolan, did you want to answer the other?
I'll try. And also, and those are excellent questions. And also, remember, we took a big leap because we all worried about getting shut down again, and we want to make sure everybody has something. So I want to commend Rich and Steve Harrison, Paul and Lisa for putting together a plan to buy these computers. And again, I keep saying this, we didn't expect to go from 0 to 60. So again, I think the plan that Rich has in place, we're going to get through this first year. And if we get through this first year, then next year we can begin to replenish the ones that are a little older, and we'll have warranties. As far as what remote learning is going to look like, we said for the first month, students are going to follow along in Google Classroom. We are still in the process of, building, and I've been saying this all along, we did say, we were talking about synchronous instruction, but that doesn't mean all full-time live streaming to me, okay? And we understand that, what grade do you teach?
High school.
Okay, so you're teaching 11th and 12th, your instruction is going to be much different than a kindergarten. And we are looking into several options, and we also, the 14th and the 21st are big for us because we have to test our entire infrastructure. And I'll be honest, if the infrastructure can't handle what we're trying to do, we're going to have to make some major infrastructure enhancements. And, those enhancements will lead to, not just this year, but in the future, better instruction. So you're going to get more details on the virtual as we roll it out, because we are still in conversation about that. And we're talking to neighboring districts, and quite honestly, it's an arduous task because it comes with a price tag. Our neighbors to the east are paying about $3 million to put out virtual learning in the district, and I'm going to say that right now, we will not do that, and we quite frankly are not going to do that kind of. We can't invest that kind of money in one program. So I keep saying to everyone, let's keep safe, wear our masks. Get into your next question, the question about the hot masks. Having toured the district all summer long, we did building tours today. I have a lot of confidence in the adults, the teachers and the aides and the paras and the TAs and the secretaries and the administrators. Common sense is going to have to play a role in this. And with the desks 6 feet apart, and again, you'll understand this as a teacher, different times in the class. There are times where everybody's separated and we can take a break. There are times we're going to go outside and take breaks. There are going to be times, we've talked about using our courtyards, especially with the younger kids, because we don't want them outside the, sort of outside the wall. Here at the high school, we can trust them a little bit more, outside. But we have security guards. We're going to have to do everything we can, and honestly, kids are going to be different. Some kids are going to put the mask on, just wear it all day long, not even look back, and it's not like any, we have to try to individualize it, but I can't emphasize this enough. It appears, the one thing people seem to agree on is that the masks stop the spread, so they have to wear them. When a child is in distress, or a child is not comfortable, hand has to go up, talk to your teacher, and we will find a way to get that child comfortable. I think that's the overriding theme is common sense. As far as the health screening form, I don't have one in front of me. It is difficult because there are questions, and we went back and forth about this, because it would sound a lot sexier if we just went to an app. But we also know that if it's in an app, kids are going to be walking in here, and we're not going to be able to tell. And even trying to, take temperatures right there at the door, you're going to be backed up into the street. But for the first, at least for the first, couple of weeks, if they're coming in, it's like a golden ticket. It's like the Easy Pass. If you're coming in with a piece of paper in your hand that says you've had your temperature taken, now Lord knows we need support, we need trust, and quite listen, I know there's frustration out there, and that's what this office is for. I think in Greek, superintendent means when I'm frustrated, I call that guy. Okay, and I feel terrible. I've had a little trouble keeping up, but I'm getting old. I'll make up for the ones that I've missed the phone calls. But as far
No wording, it's just that last part, maybe you could put primary care physician.
we'll look at that, because coming back to every time a kid sneezes, they don't have COVID, and we're not going to make this. The Department of Health has actually been pretty responsive. We've had a couple of false starts this summer, and like I said, a couple of our neighboring districts are going through this right now. I feel terrible because, two of the people I like and respect the most in my cohort of superintendents are going through some very tough times right now because they've had positive cases. And one of the things that we're doing is, I'm talking to two of my colleagues to support them, one, and to learn how they're handling it too. And again, just because a child sneezes, just because a child has a fever, and, your doctor will, if your child has a fever, you're taking them to the doctor anyway. So your doctor will write a note and says, Mary or Johnny had the flu, and, we're going to have to, work together on that. And I think I covered all 4 of them. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you.
Marie? Janine Di Lorenzo? Good evening.
Wait, hold on a second, Mrs. D. Hold on 1 second.
No. I gotta give Mr. Bernard credit for this. This will be my job. Don't tell my wife that. Any of you were at graduation? Mr. Bernard White was down every time somebody spoke.
Oh, we all just signed in with the same pen and not one person writes it.
Next time I'll get the pens, I promise.
Thank you. Good evening. I just want to say I am frustrated, sad, mad at the lack of communication. I know it's a trying time for everyone, but I think the communication could absolutely be better in the district. We hear rumors on Facebook and texts from friends, and that's how I've gotten most of my information. And if anything can improve, it can be the communication in the district. I actually drove down to Mr. Dolan's office today because I wanted to know where my kids' schedules are, because I can't get an answer from the schools. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe they'll show up Tuesday and just meander around the halls. I can't get an answer. I just had to state that. I would like to know, because I did hear a rumor, are the kids going to be responsible for cleaning their desks before and after classes in the middle school and high school? The temperatures, I know you did just go over it. However, my husband and I are out of the house before my kids even get up. Having said that, do I need to wake them, or are they going to be able to take their own temperatures? Chromebooks. I hear a lot about the elementary schools receiving their Chromebooks. What about the middle school and high schools? I know they're on back order, but until then, what are they supposed to do on the days they are home? Are we responsible for our own devices? How are they receiving their lessons on their days off? Cohorts. A couple weeks ago, when we met at the ECC, we were told that they would be worked out within the classes between the teachers. It seems as though now they're going to be assigned cohorts. How is that going to work? Okay. Cafeteria. I understand the way it's set up is a classroom setting. They will get their lunch, go and sit down, and be eating like a classroom. No socialization whatsoever. Is there anything that can be done about this? That is the only time they get to socialize. And what are they going to do about the socialization? Will anyone be monitoring this? They don't get to talk to their friends at their lockers. They can't talk in the halls. At this point, I want to keep my kids home, have their friends over, and do schoolwork together, because at least they'll see their friends. I don't know what else to do. I understand safety reasons, but it's to the extreme at this point. Thank you.
I know, Mrs. D, don't wait, Mrs. D, don't go away. Don't go away, because I don't want to, I'm sure I'm going to miss something, so I'll work my way backwards. Yeah, there's no doubt that socialization is going to be an issue. But we're also seeing across the country, college campuses, kids are being sent home, you know.
Kids are stupid, I'm sorry.
Well, no, listen, kids aren't stupid, they're just kids, okay? Adults, you can ask my wife, I do stupid things. Kids are just learning. You know, we're painfully aware, and it breaks my heart to walk in and to see some of the things that I'm seeing. But on a good note, I'm already seeing from, the East Islip, the faculty and staff have changed my sort of hard way of thinking. And there are some, I guess I'll call them accoutrements or ambiance to classrooms that the superintendent decreed everything should be gone and banished. I also have a great deal of confidence in kids. And I do believe they will find ways. And I think right now, this is, I am guardedly optimistic, and I'm truly looking forward to next week, because for the first time in 6 months, we're going to have kids back in school. Is it going to be the same? No. Nor should it be, because we want it to be safe. But I've watched kids for the last 35 years, and, I think we're going to find some pretty creative ways, hopefully, for them to enjoy each other. And hoping that we're smart and with good supervision and guidance, we stay healthy, and we can be the beacon, and we can be we don't have any illness, and the sooner we're back together, the happier we're all going to be. I didn't understand the part about the cohorts. Do you mean the part about the separation in the alphabet?
Well, they each have it's cohort 1, cohort 2, who they're assigned to. Is back at the ECC, you said it would be worked out amongst the teachers who was going to be assigned to who. Now it sounds almost like they're going to already be assigned someone when they start.
Oh, no, I apologize. What we were talking about, I was talking about the scheduling, because right now what they're trying to do is balance, because not every class, and I alluded to this in the beginning, they don't break out neatly.
Right.
So the guidance counselors are now, let's say, off the top of my head, if a child is taking woodworking and child psychology and AP physics, and their last name ends in, L, or they have, 8 of those kids in L, it might not all fit neatly. So the guidance counselors and the administrator and the principals at the elementary level are trying to make the classes, because remember now, kids are going to be in classes of approximately, at the elementary, 10 to 12, here 12 to 14. So they're going to get to see, as I said to you in the parking lot, they'll get to see their teachers on a much more personal level. They're going to, even though they'll be here fewer days, as I alluded to in the parking lot, when you have 28 kids in a class, there are always a couple that hide. There'll be no place when you go into these rooms, there's no place for them to hide. So those days they're with their teacher, they're going to get more attention. As far as the lessons on a day off with the computers, this is a challenge. We were promised these computers last week. They're not here. I know Mr. Harrison has been pounding on his company to get them here. That's why we know you see school districts that are pushing back and not starting on time. There are school districts that didn't order computers that are pushing back. We're going to continue to put pressure on our supplier, although we know there are delays, because as soon as everybody has something in their hand, then we can move forward full steam. We are going to hope, and we are going to rely, and we are going to have to be sensitive to the fact that there may only be one computer in the house. Or I know, Mr. Z will do his best. We have to lend some out to families that don't have one in the house. But we are hoping that these computers arrive here in the next couple of weeks, and we get them into the children's hands. And especially, God forbid it goes negative. We want to make sure if we have to pivot and go to a fully virtual, on a pause, we want people to be prepared. So that's where we are asking for some patience. These were ordered, the board acted very quickly. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Z, put the order together very quickly, and we're at the mercy of the delivery right now. But we will, and teachers will know this, and teachers will be, I believe, be patient with kids. And I said this at the last meeting I was at. I'm looking forward to the teachers and the kids getting into the classroom safely, and we get out of the way. Let the teachers teach, let the aides help, let the support staff help. And, with smaller classes, I think teachers will be able to hear more quickly the needs of their students, and will be sensitive to those that may need that might not have the computers at home and might need a little support or a little more time. But, like I said, this is going to be a year of, content is important, but as you said, communication's got to get better. That falls on my office. And communication as to what we need to move forward is going to be important. And as far as the temperatures, I don't know what kind of thermometer you have. If you have one of those, if you stick, I think that, I used to do it to my kids when they were asleep, but also, your children. I would, as much as I like to joke about it, quite frankly, my 3 boys would probably be better at taking their own temperature than their father. Oh, okay, and the cleaning of the desks, it's going to, you can't sit here and promise, the kids aren't going to have to clean the desks. What we're doing is getting the hand sanitizers out there, the pumps, and the wipes. The wipes are very hard to come by right now, but we have supplies, we have the sprays, we are bringing in custodial aides, and we also have the misters. We're going to be using what they call it Smart Touch. It's a disinfectant that they use in hospitals. It's actually everything from hospitals to restaurants, laboratories, schools, which is a spray disinfectant. And we're going to get into the classrooms on a regular basis. One of the reasons we want to keep the cafeterias open, especially in the elementary schools, is so when the kids are out of the classrooms, we can go in and hit them. This is all EPA approved. J.C. Broderick, is the firm we work with, and they've approved all of these products for us, the Buckeye Cleaner and the Smart Touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patrick O'Boyle.
Yeah, don't worry, I don't need a microphone. Hi, guys, I'm Patrick O'Boyle. Thank you all for everything you do. And I know it's not easy, and like I said last week, there's no district that has a perfect plan. Mr. Harrison, can you tell me what the pipe is coming into the schools? The speed coming into the schools?
2 gigs.
2 gigs. So do you know how many teachers can stream at with 2 gigs?
Google estimates that it takes between 3 and 5 megabits per second to live stream.
7, yeah, okay.
So if we had 250 teachers streaming at the same time, mathematically, that would be one gig.
As long as it's 1 gig, but that means no one else would be on a Chromebook pulling Wi-Fi, the secretary, stuff like that. So we'd have to up to at least 3 or 4 gigs. We'd have to upgrade. I know I've got a short amount of time, but that's where we'd have to be. Second, now I'm thinking about pulling my daughter out of school when I just heard the stuff about the Gators. Because you know what? I just did research in the back, and there's not one study besides the Duke University study that actually conflicts it, except for 2 studies that were done by People magazine. So I'm scared about my daughter being in a classroom with someone with a gator on. So why that changed? Follow the science. Isn't that what we hear? Follow the science? And listen, I'm a teacher too. And thank goodness my district actually changed last week to make no gators, because as a teacher, I'd be scared. And I'm scared for my daughters. I wasn't scared to send them, and now you're making me scared. Next, how many security guards are we hiring? Last week they said, no, we're not. We're full on security. Well, I'm sorry. I just watched all the videos and all the new entrances coming into the school. Do we have a plan how many we're hiring for all those new entrances? Sorry, a little fired up. I'm just still upset about the Gators. When it comes to the Chromebooks too, those are refurbished Chromebooks?
They're Chromebooks that we had here already.
We had enough Chromebooks for the whole district?
We had enough Chromebooks for grades 1 through 4.
But we're getting room for the whole district, right?
No, we're getting laptops for grades 6 through 12.
Okay, and do we know how long those batteries last?
8 hours.
Oh, they do? Okay, because I know having brand new Chromebooks and laptops the last few years and kids on them every period, maybe you've got, and it used to be easy last year because we had plugs in the back. I'd send my students to the back and they'd all huddle up, plug in. And they can't do that now. They've got to be in their spot. So as a teacher, when it comes to periods 6, 7, and 8, and the Chromebooks aren't there, what are they going to do? Just some ideas. I think that's probably my time. Once again, I thank you guys. By the way, it takes a little bit of time to update the access points. And if we're going to go from 2 to 4 gigs, it's not just we flip a switch. It doesn't work that way. And I know you know better than I am. I'm not a tech guy. I know people.
And Pat, before you leave though, Pat, as far as the security goes, our security consultant, Mr. Flynn, and the principals have worked it out between our security guards, assistant principals, principals, administrators, and again, we have several things now that are conflicting that the Department of Health tells us, but in order to get the kids in quickly and expediently, we'll have security guards and administrators at the doors, get them in, close the doors, and then, then we're down to the one entrance. So the elementaries are easier, and the high school, we just have more hands. We have more security guards and we have more administrators.
And
at the middle school.
My email, I won't say it out loud, I'll give it to you at the end, because I would love to hear the reports, the conflicting reports on gators, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me, because I want the scientific data on why gators are now being accepted. I would love that. I'll send you my email, and please send that to me, because once again, I'm not sure now if I can send my kids to school, because we changed, because people, they bought them already. What is that? They bought them already. That's not a reason.
Mario?
I just want to go back to the wipes for a second. If I choose to send my children with wipes, will they be allowed to use them? Because I know that there's been back and forth on that. If I choose to not sign the waiver on breaking of the laptops and me having to pay for them, can my children use their own devices? And if so, do they have to be brought into the IT department for anything before they come into school? And my final question is, we had the health forum on the app. We know it was taken down. You're now requiring us to print this out and bring it in. So is the school going to be making copies and providing it to the parents, or are we going to be given a day and time to come pick up paper and ink provided by the district? Or, I mean, we have enough to print out as it is. We've spent a lot of money between March and June printing everything out. So what, I guess, is the district going to do to help in that aspect?
I'll start with the wipes. And I believe that, I'm not sure if they're on supply lists, but yes, they can certainly, they've in the past been asked to bring baby wipes, which are not disinfectant, but...
No, I have a whole stockpile of Clorox wipes, Lysol wipes, handy wipes, whatever they are, but we were told we could use them, then we couldn't use them, so before I send them in, I don't want them to say, no, you can't use them.
Paul, I want to just make sure I'm saying this right, but it's okay. Yeah, I mean, we acknowledge the fact that, we're going to have 3,700 kids here every day, and we are outnumbered. And that is going to be halved. But and it's not bad. I mean, part of what we teach kids in school, even in a good year, a simple year, is, good hygiene, pick up after yourself, clean up after yourself. So yes, they can. Okay. Richie, help me out with the devices, because
The replacement fee is if it's not returned. There's no fee to a parent for breakage.
Okay, because that was on,
It said that if it's not returned, the fee to replace it is.
didn't it say that it was, if it was broken as well? It did. It said if it was broken as well. Yes, or stolen. or damaged. So that needs to be clearer before you expect parents to sign off on something, because it didn't give a fee, and how could you even expect the parents to sign off if they don't even know what they're paying?
Okay, we'll clarify that before we get them out. And as far as the printing, let me look in to see, I got a couple ideas in my head, let me talk it over with Paul. We'd ask you for the first 2 days to print them, but let's see what we can come up with. Does that sound fair? Okay, thank you.
Tracy Rice.
You definitely touched on a lot of questions that people had asked me to bring up here tonight, people who couldn't get here. One thing you didn't touch on was traffic patterns around the school, if a lot of people are not going to be taking the buses. So if you could kind of give us an idea of what you would like them to do when they drive up. Schedules obviously was asked. The daily fever obviously was asked, 550 sheets of paper every day at the high school. I think you're going to hear from the AP environmental class about that. And someone wanted to know about the cosmetology class. So if you can touch on any of that.
The cosmetology bus?
Cosmetology class.
Cosmetology kids are being informed. I mean, it's
They were saying that they hadn't heard anything, so they asked me to ask tonight because they couldn't come.
I'm not sure.
I don't have a cosmetology kid, but maybe you can throw it out there for everybody.
What's the question?
They haven't heard what the plan is, they're claiming.
I will have Mr. Stanton address that tomorrow. I haven't heard it from any parents regarding cosmetology as far as a plan. I'm not sure what the
okay.
question is.
Just telling you what people ask.
No, and you heard it's important because, you know, now that the buildings are back open running, it's always best to call the building first. Working backwards, from the top, traffic patterns. Again, Mr. Flynn and the building principals have walked, the buildings. We are anticipating more cars. We will have the best advice, and I know this myself, the first time I had to drive my child to school, and remember, I had been an administrator for several years already, I was in a state of panic, because here I am pulling into a parking lot and all these cars coming from all over the place, and it was an elementary school that wasn't that big, and, the traffic patterns, there'll be guards out there directing traffic, especially here, we anticipate high school, middle school, a tremendous amount of cars in the morning.
You're going to guide people like where you want them to
Yep,
go. That's
yep.
kind of what they want to know.
Absolutely, and it's not going to be terribly complicated, but it's going to take a couple days, like anything else, to get used to it.
Obviously.
And in the elementary schools, the traffic patterns will be similar, only we expect longer lines. And so we have a double-edged sword here, because, we don't have a place to really, we don't want the kids congregating if they get there early. So we do anticipate especially arrivals, to be tricky the first couple of days. So what we're going to say is, we say this every year, again, the patience, but the traffic patterns are not going to change necessarily that much. What's going to change is the amount of time. So we're going to ask people, you're going to have to be patient.
As long as you communicate with them, so it does, that's what they're asking you to do, just tell them what you want them to do.
Yep.
And I'm on the board again, I don't know if it's me, for the Gators. I always trust you guys with science, and I don't know what happened between a week ago with me and all of a sudden now. And I hate the placating of people just to go against science. That's all I have to say about that.
Christine Capolino.
Hi. I don't really have any questions, just some thoughts that have been on my mind. Somebody recently shared a quote with me that really stuck with me, and I feel like it's bringing up a lot of emotions with this whole situation. Do not listen to respond, listen to hear. And I believe that due to the state of the world that we're in right now and this very difficult job that I know you're all doing, and that you've been tasked with, I think that we've maybe lost sight of listening to the people, as listening to hear us versus listening to respond. I know I'm stating the obvious when I say that a lot of the community is feeling an array of emotions. We're angry, we're scared, we're upset, we feel uninformed, we feel at times unlistened to, and we're frustrated. I thank you, I do, for all the opportunities to speak, but I feel that what we really need is not being heard. We need to know that our kids' teachers and your staff are being listened to and they're involved in this process. I've heard many times that they haven't been involved this whole summer in all this planning, and they're your frontline workers. We need information to be given to us in a timely manner, not just on Facebook and not just by hearsay and, oh, did you hear this? We need the people involved to be giving us more information firsthand, even if it's just simply, here's what's going on, here's an example of how bad it is in the high school, we're trying, we need to get it to you, but we need to hear it. We don't need all this crap on Facebook, sorry for my language. We need transparency. We need to feel that we trust what's going on behind the scenes and that we trust and that we're fully supported in what we need. It's really just not fair to us to feel like there's not full disclosure on things at times, oftentimes. I understand that things are in motion. We've got to get through Tuesday and next week, and we're going here. But in the future and going forward, I really think that communication needs to be reevaluated because it would really calm some of the anger and frustration around the community. And I think that in the future, more teachers, more community needs to be involved in the plans going forward. Things are going to change and spiral as this year goes on, and I think more people need to be involved in what's going on. And I know it's not easy for any of us, but we just ask that you listen to hear us and not to respond. That's all. Thank you.
Hey, Christine? Can I say something to you?
Okay.
Look, I'll continue to say this. People have been tremendously supportive, and nobody really needs to say anymore how hard this job is. It's really not, it's challenging. It can be nerve-wracking at times because, the last thing I'd want to do is, be sitting across the table after something catastrophic happened. But I think, one of the things that's so polarizing about this is that the opinions, in the absence of, there are facts, but these are new facts, nothing set in concrete. And the tough part was, I think for from this side of the table, for us, was we knew we were going to have to make a decision that, based on the resources and the evidence and the factors we have here in East Islip, and we knew we were going to be compared to everybody else. I'm not talking about anybody else tonight. I'm not talking about anybody else anymore. My office will shoulder the responsibility for any of the mistakes, but I also know that I'm already hearing, good things starting to grow out of, and simple things like banish everything from the classrooms. And I've had educators say to me, John, if there's no color in the room, it's terrible for the kids. Can we make this better? Somebody said something to me yesterday, can we do this? And I said, well, not today, but ask me in 2 weeks. And I think, there was a tremendous amount, and I said this, I had a tremendous amount of, ideas, suggestions, some really, really pointed criticism. And I promised myself I'd only cry on the way home in the car. I wouldn't cry in front of other people. But it took it to heart. And now what's starting to happen is, now that we've charted a course, people are coming forward with good, solid, concrete suggestions. And I've seen some real evidence now. The teachers and the staff have only been back for a couple days, but I'm getting more and more hopeful, and that some of the decisions we had to make were because of the resources and the particular circumstances East Islip has. And like I said, I love my brothers and sisters superintendents. I love the other school districts. But comparing is like comparing apples and oranges, I'll keep saying that.
I'm not comparing.
No, no,
I'm talking
and-
about hearing from
But
this district.
listen, I've said it before, yeah, the communication for the last several weeks has not been good. I'll take full responsibility for that. But, on the other hand, I also knew that no matter what we said, people were not going to be happy, and when that happens, that's the first step to eroding good communication. So now it's going to take time, and I said it at the last board meeting I was at, it's going to be baby steps back to building that trust back again. So, I continue to say, if we're thankful at Thanksgiving, we made the right decisions. If we're not, then you're going to come after me. Okay?
Yeah, we'll be here.
I know you will. I know where you live.
Catherine Cullen?
Yeah, hi. I have a daughter who's in her last year of the core program at the high school. So my question is, I've been hearing that school's going to end at 1:20 and not the regular time, so it will be ending at the regular time? Okay, perfect. At least you answered that question, because no one could actually tell me, for sure. The other question is, part of her day is the worksite program, so I'm going to assume that's not going to happen. So what are the last 3 periods of her day going to look like?
The tough part is, we're hoping to create some sort of experience, because it's going to be hard to get them out into the world.
Right, I understand
And,
that.
and again, this is where I've watched those teachers in the past be very creative with what they do, but there are a lot of programs now that are going to have to create other experiences until we're allowed to go in.
Right.
So, the answer is, stay tuned, and the teachers are going to have to continue teaching, but
Because
hopefully.
my concern is those last periods, is she's just not going to be sitting in a classroom doing nothing.
No. And I think, go ahead, Paul.
Our teachers are currently working on some virtual type experiences for the students.
Okay. And when will we know what that's going to look like?
I will have someone get back to you tomorrow. If you can just leave your name and
It's on the
direct
list.
email, I will get that to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Tamara Fiore?
Good evening. I just want to start out by saying that I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Most of my qualms are above and beyond any school district at this point. I just want to really hope that you guys all know the importance of in-school, social, teachers, everything. We keep, saying how great it is that we have all of these computers for them. And in our current world, which I will not say is the new normal because there is nothing normal about it, I do appreciate the devices. I know there's a lot of people that don't have them at home, and it's going to be great. But I just really hope that everybody here is eventually working towards in-school learning with their teachers, with their peers, and that the laptops are not the end goal here. The only 2 other questions that I have are I have 4 children of very various ages, none of which are entering kindergarten this year, but I do care about the kindergartners, and I keep hearing about this paperless day for them, and I'm just wondering how a kindergartner is going to learn how to read and write on a computer, and if that in fact is true. And my other question is for the playgrounds. Are the elementary students going to be allowed to use the playground equipment? And if not, why? Because they're using it now anyway.
You want to take the paperless? I haven't heard. Have you heard paperless?
At this point, I need to look more into the kindergarten paperless, because that's a good point. I'm not sure how they're going to address the basic educational experience in the kindergarten group, or any group for that matter, paperless.
Okay.
And the playgrounds, we want the kids to be able to use the playgrounds. We are working on protocols to clean them the best we can, but as you said, they're using them now.
or even come up with a waiver, like a parent can sign a waiver to say their kid's allowed to go on the playground. At this point, I'm just concerned with my child's in-school education being more damaging than not being in school, and I want my kids in school really bad. I've never appreciated teachers so much in my life, so I really want them in school. I would send them to school 5 days. I really hope that we can try and make this, as you say, as normal as possible. Not the new normal, the old.
Tamara, right?
Yes, Tamara, yes.
Tamara, I'm sorry. You made an excellent point, and it made me think, the computers are the new way for this generation, but nothing, and I say this all the time, public school experience. I'm very proud to be a third-generation public school person. I am the black sheep in the family because I became an administrator, and my God, when I became superintendent, were they disappointed. But, teachers and kids working together, the socialization, that's really, the primary goal here is to teach kids how to work together. And on the days that I was sad and there was nobody around, I was like, how is this going to work if they have to stay 6 feet apart? And now as I go into classrooms the last several days, seeing the teachers back, seeing the administrators, fully engaged, the paras and the TAs, and the secretaries, support staff, now I look at classrooms and I'm like, they're going to be creative. And kids are going to learn how to bridge that 6-foot gap. And they are going to have conversations, and they are going to make jokes, and they are going to do silly things. But please, and maybe that's where I could get better, because I've been talking about the computers, because maybe I thought that's what people wanted to hear.
Some people might. I know you can't please everybody.
No. But the one thing that public schools will always have is that beautiful mix and that beautiful melting pot of, we don't ask you for a resume, we don't ask for a background, we don't ask for anything, we just say, come on in, we want you to learn. And there is not one person that I have met at this table who works for this district. The day that we can get everybody back in here is going to be a day of celebration. So that's why we're going to be careful. We know the masks are going to be difficult, but we know the masks are what help us. We're going to try to protect each other, stay 6 feet apart. We'll clean as best we can. We have chemicals that are, EPA approved. But we want kids in school socializing, talking, having fun, laughing. And, I'm looking forward to the second week of school, because by the time the kids figure out how to communicate, we're going to be, I think, back on the right track.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Frazier? Was that we just heard?
Nope. Is the clock on yet? A lot of my questions were answered. I as well, you all know me from last meeting, that I stormed out of here because I'm highly frustrated at the lack of communication from our district. Have a bunch of children, random ages. The lack of organization during this complete process, which I know was thrown at you, is just really discouraging, I have to say, because no one seems to have an answer for anything. And the answer that I've received from Mr. Dolan or anybody last week was, they say something to your face and then turn around and say something else. School does start this coming Tuesday, just so everybody knows, September 8th. So we're constantly running out of tomorrows to answer our questions. We keep getting tomorrow. None of us have an answer as to anything. Nobody has an answer. I'm glad that I have a tremendous amount of faith in our teachers, who are phenomenal, the teachers that you want to run your classrooms, who have made ideas creative, that you should have had involved in the whole process, the whole entire summer, trying to come up with a plan, and you didn't, because they could have given you tons of ideas. It would have caused a lot less stress for all of us parents. You said the middle school schedules will be up tomorrow. Is that tomorrow, September 3rd? Or is there another tomorrow? I'm really being very sarcastic because I'm just so overwhelmed with anger right now, and you're just laughing.
I'm not laughing.
And then the health forms, why can't they be on the app? Because you want me to print it out, leave it on my kitchen table with breakfast, syrup, coffee, this and that, have my 5 kids stuff it in their backpack and then bring it into school with them while they're licking it on the bus. So I don't really understand, like, the paper trail here, or as to why it can't be on the parent square like it was originally and then it was taken down. Also, today, 6 months, almost to the date, 6 months later, we finally questioned mental health. You send out a survey, it's September 2nd, to find out how our kids' mental health has been through this entire process. So after I hire my son, an external mental health specialist, you finally think to ask those questions. I had to go to a therapist and get him help because he has been mentally imploding because of the lack of socialization through his friends. He doesn't know what school is going to look like. He's entering a new building. He's going to middle school. He has no idea of anything. And I refuse also to call this the new normal because our main goal is to get them all back in the classroom where they belong. I don't care if who's bowing down to whoever. They need to be back in school. This is a virus that has the 99%, like 6% survival rate that we're all petrified of. I'm not, but I mean, I'll send them to school in a plastic bag if you want, and I'll come wipe down the playground because I want my kids to be able to have some kind of normalcy because this is not helping them. My son is 11 and has tremendous anxiety that has formed over the last few months. You know what, I don't need to get into anything I'm just personal, so
Okay. What I'd like to say is if you could call over to the middle school and ask for the psychologist.
I already have my own psychologist.
Okay.
I'm just wondering as to why now today, 6 months later, a survey was put out about the children, their children, my children, everybody else's children's mental health is. I'd like an answer to that. I want to know as why now, 6 months later, we're worried. And you weren't worried 6 months ago, or 3 months ago, or 2 months ago about the kids.
We were, absolutely.
And no one really, you really don't know. Everything is tomorrow. And then also, if someone tests positive, I mean, how many times are we going to have to run our children to the doctor for a COVID test that causes like major nosebleeds after a few of them?
If you'd like to stay after, I'm happy to talk to you further, but just to expedite the rest of the meeting, I'm happy to... You
didn't really cut anybody else off, so I'm going to actually...
Actually, it was 3 minutes. No one went over there.
The timer never went on. So,
I think everybody's here for the same answer.
because we don't have an answer for our children.
Is that convenient for you?
We don't have an answer. Would everyone like an answer?
Anytime there's a pressing issue, it's always the first to come and meet me at my office.
Or a phone call. So please, can someone explain to me? I'm not leaving until I have an answer.
So the survey question?
To any question, anybody's question.
As far as the survey goes, we're back up and running. We didn't have staff here all summer. Now we're going to be ready when the
What
kids
about
come
March,
in.
April, May, June?
March.
What about all the children that were seeing psychiatrists and therapists in school? I mean, I can verbally speak, nothing was sent from any of them.
And my son got speech.
But I guess with Suicide Month in September, I guess we care now. Just saying.
No, and in fact, we did have children working with our social workers and psychologists. And, and if we didn't know about it, parents that called, or parents that we were aware of, or parents that were, currently, or who were assigned, children who were assigned or working with the mental health professionals continued, to, if you weren't getting the service that you were being provided, we would need a phone call to address it.
My son has an IEP for 2 years and got speech, and the speech teacher, he finally got speech the last 2 weeks of school.
We know there were issues with, and quite frankly, the directives we got in that area from state ed and from the government were not what I would call helpful, and we do know that we know we had issues in the spring, and we are going to be better in the fall. We know there were issues.
Like on September 8th, which is a few days away.
Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah. And also, again, someone did mention the Facebook. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that we have to rely on a social media platform to get our information from our school district. That, is it the schedules are up, they're not up, they're out, they're not out, teachers are out. Oh, wait, I made a mistake, that's the wrong teacher. Someone in the audience has 2 teachers right now for our kindergartner. I mean, this is it's like a road show. And I know a lot of other teachers in a lot of other districts that have plenty of, all their parents know exactly how everything is going down, how every day is going, how from the time they get on the bus to the time they leave school, how their child's day is going. Oh my God, it's silence again. I hear-
You know what, Jess, I take full responsibility, and...
and then you said that you kind of like when people, you get mad, like when people, you just said something before, you answered someone's question and said that anyone can be mad at what you say, so basically you just give up? No matter what you say?
Look, I'm trying to remember exactly what I said.
You said no matter what you say, someone's always going to get mad,
No,
so
no,
you didn't
no matter-
bother answering anything.
No.
You can't please everybody, so we'll just...
No, we made decisions that, hey, look, there are some people that have called up and said, hey, that's great, but those aren't the ones we have to, I said that very clearly at the beginning, those aren't the ones we're listening to. The people that are happy with our decisions,
There's about 400 people probably right now at home that are watching this, that are probably not happy, they just don't want to come here, because they're just, know that they're not going to get an answer.
I would hope over the next several weeks
It's
that...
not, I'm sure it's probably not just the 25 of us that are angry in the district.
I don't disagree.
So, that's all I have to say.
Michelle, I can't, the last name begins with a W? Yeah, that's, I'm sorry.
This whole notebook is not for you guys. Okay, so I know you guys don't have an easy job. I do the same thing you do on a higher education level, and we've been working nonstop for 5 months, and it's definitely not easy to sit on the other side and have to tell people to be patient, be patient, be patient. My frustration, my concerns is about the virtual learning, the remote learning with 2 working parents that have to be outside the home. I have 3 boys myself, 2 in middle school, 1 going into RCK. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, and I'm traumatized from March and June experience. That was completely traumatizing. So I too appreciate the teachers, and I'm hoping that what they come up with is going to be viable and what might work or might not work, we have to change it. I feel like it's going to be a fluid situation that we all have to roll with. But like Jessica was just saying, they're to be told tomorrow. I mean, my 2 kids don't have a plan, the teachers, it's, why it feels so last minute to me is concerning. My other question about technology is we have Parent Square, Parent Portal, we have the website, we have, and then Facebook being, I never thought of social media as a source of information, but lately that's kind of where that's where I'm finding the most information. So I don't know if there's a way to integrate that so that people just have, especially people who are working multiple kids, and it's just easier to go to one place to go to it. Is there any reality of the start date being pushed back because of some of these things not being streamlined and firm? I'm trying to be quick. Is it true? I don't know if this is even the case. So I'm trying to understand the process. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, okay, my kids are in cohort 2, so they'll be attending school Thursday and Friday, so they'll be in school. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they're going to be doing kind of what the model was March through June, or I'm just trying to hope that some type of live teaching or something to that, I don't know. There's the smart boards in the classrooms. I don't understand the privacy part of it. I do understand FERPA because I work in the higher education. So I understand what allowances are being made at this point for distance learning. I agree with the gator masks. Mr. O'Boyle mentioned, it's a simple test. If you can blow out a birthday candle through a mask, it's not good. And the gator mask was proved. And I actually bought like all of them because they're super cool, but they are not proven to be, they're not serving their purpose. Chromebooks. So, yeah, I signed it because I just wanted to I'm working, trying to get things done. I signed the agreement, but then thought about it. I don't even have it in my hand. I signed something, I don't even know if what kind of condition it's going to be in. I guess that's my time. And I'm sorry. But the health forms, that too could be also a streamlined part of the whole integrated system thing. You know, doing an app. For my own company, it's an app, sign in, do it like that. So I just went through it super quick.
No, I'm going to try to, let me see if I can get these. What was your first name again?
Michelle.
Michelle, okay. It doesn't look like at this time, there's no reason to push the start date back.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to be moving forward. I think Rich addressed the Chromebooks because then, we're going to bring them back. If they break, we'll fix them. We know that those are our, those are products that we're going to take care of, okay? The health form, again, and we keep saying that things are going to evolve, because right now with our staff and the number of people we have on staff, we can work through an app type situation. With the kids, what we're trying to establish a routine. Now, we're going to look at how can we get these, push out these papers to you so you don't have to print them. But for the first couple of weeks to establish a routine, and we've called it's almost like an easy pass, because, one of the conundrums we have is we don't want to open too many doors for security reasons, but we do have to open more after we were told to not open doors. And if a child has something physically in their hand, we can at least get them to class, get them going. And then after we've established a routine, we are looking at a way to move to an app-type situation. But this is just, we want to see what the doorway traffic is going to be. We want to see what the congestion, what the bottlenecks are. And so that was the purpose of, with just paper, and give us a couple weeks, and we're going to reevaluate it. But it's like that, like I said, like a golden ticket or an easy pass to get in. I'm trying to think what else. The cohort piece. We are looking, like I said, the first couple of weeks, we're going to have these 2 Mondays where we can test that technological system. And we know, as Mr. O'Boyle said, it's not an easy thing. But we want to see what we are capable of doing. But the teachers and the students will be able to communicate, in the Google platform. And, we anticipate a much better interaction than in the spring, especially because we'll have 2 days in, and the teachers and the students will be there. And then, teachers also will be able to begin to assess where their students are at. And we all know some students need a little more help, some students need
But does that mean the teachers are teaching their curriculum twice?
No,
Okay.
they're going to do the full week of curriculum, but there'll be work in the Google platform that the kids at home can log on and get to.
And that, I'm not understanding the resistance, though, in the virtual, like the student being logged into the classroom at home. I understand there's privacy concerns. I guess I'm just not fully understanding that part of it, but.
Again, I said this the other day, we talk about synchronous being the live streaming, live teaching, asynchronous being the tape. We think that we're going to see, an evolution of the instruction. And I know, and that's not putting the answer off. This is really, we trust in the relationship between the students and the teachers. And the hardest part is much different for kindergartners than it is for high school students. Much, much different. And we do want to, we did listen to people. I got a tremendous amount of advice this summer, tremendous amount of advice, whether it was formally through committees with unit leaders, unit heads, or just in the parking lot, pizza place. There was no place, and I enjoyed it. I really, really did. And now, now it's time for us to step up and in some ways step back and watch over, especially the first couple of weeks, the teachers and the students interacting. Because remember, last year, what people don't remember is March 13th, it was Friday the 13th at 11 o'clock, we were debating whether we should tell the kids to take all their stuff home. On a phone call with the county, the superintendents were told, do not do that, we don't want to panic, we're going to be in school next week. And then Sunday, they shut us down. So we got thrown into, a very untenable situation. And across the island, we struggled, and I'm not worried about the rest of the island, but again, I am confident, and I keep looking at it, and I hate to say it, it's not going to happen overnight. And you guys have pointed out, the computers are nice, but we got to figure out a way to get them to socialize, because the socialization and the interaction between students, teachers, students, and students, and quite frankly, the cafeteria ladies, the guards, and everybody else, that social interaction is more important than the content right now. That's not to say the content isn't important, and the content is a vehicle for, certainly for interaction, but getting kids into school. And, we asked if we could have put them all back in, we would have put them all back in. We were unanimous on that, and we were told not to. And then when we were told not to, look, as much as I'd like to be the rebel and say we're going to do it, I can't put this district at risk of liability so the instruction is going to be, the teachers have done a great job this week working together, helping each other, learning, through their, the workshops, and they had an ed camp style. They've been setting up their classrooms, and I think that they're, one thing I do know, the overriding theme from the faculty and staff is how much they miss the kids, and how much they want to see the kids and interact with the kids. And I am certainly going to support them, and I want to give them that opportunity. And it's going to take a little time, and I promise you, I don't know if I've said new normal. This is bizarro.
No, this is not
This
normal.
is bizarre.
I understand. I'm in this industry. I get it. I just, I just don't, I feel like we just got involved, or, it just started around August, when really, I know from the school I'm working for, it's been, we're trying something, we're working 24 hours a day since March. Okay, this didn't work for the medical student, we have to do this. It was like trial and error, and lots of communication to the students. Okay, just so you know, we're trying this. If this doesn't work, we're going to try this. It was just, and the students appreciated it more, knowing that we were saying, listen, this is what we're going to try first. And if it doesn't work, we're going to go to this. And now we have a little bit more of a system, but it just feels a little rushed now. I can't help but feel that at this point.
Listen, I accept,
I know.
full responsibility, and part of it, we were getting a lot of input, we were meeting daily, we had, unit leaders, we had people, but in hindsight, when this is all over, and I sit back and reflect, there are some things, hopefully, there are things that I'll do better next year moving forward.
You're doing a great job. Listen, hold
second.
This is an impossible situation.
No.
This has been a very impossible situation.
This is very healthy, like I said. We don't need to hear. I love the people who are happy, but I love you guys just as much, because we need to hear from you. We need to hear what is not working, because what's working is working, and what's not working, we need to hear.
Well, March through June, that didn't work.
Oh, no, I think everybody agrees that we learned a good lesson there. We could do better.
Yeah, that didn't work. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Merriam?
Hi. So my question involves student illnesses and COVID testing. As parents, we see our children contract everything from the common cold to the flu, stomach flu, and random fevers. All of these have the same symptoms as COVID-19. And so many of us know our children very rarely wake up feeling sick, because that would just make our lives way too easy. So my question to you involves the schools labeling my child as a potential COVID case. As per the reopening plan, the children will be quarantined in the school, which, as they should, If they show signs of fever or other COVID symptoms such as coughing, diarrhea, vomiting, fatigue, etc. Now, once we pick up our children and we're able to observe them at home, would we need a negative COVID test to be required to allow them to return to school? Or if after speaking to a pediatrician and they state a COVID test is not required, would a doctor's note suffice in allowing my child to return once the symptoms subside? I know we're all trying to avoid any additional exposure as well as the torture of having our children tested. I mean, my kids are 7 and 8 years old. I don't have the mental or physical capacity to even try to wrestle them to get a flu test or now their sinuses swabbed. And another point of that question is, if a child is expected to stay home, can they log on every day or only during the days that would have been their virtual cohort day?
I think, and help me out here, Paul, but, they'll be able, the assignments will be in the Google platform, so they can get them. And as far as the medical one, and this is another thing going back to the temperature taking that we're trying to be sensitive of. I mean, if you line the kids up and you're taking their temperatures as they walk in the building, okay? Or, and then you got let's say each person is responsible to take 25 temperatures. The second kid has 102. Oh, Johnny, go sit on a bench and wait there. Now you've got 23 kids looking at that kid, texting their parents going, we got COVID.
Yeah.
No, I think, and I'm very proud of our nurses. I think they're professional. They've done wonderful things, as we've seen, at our summer school program. They've been, they were here taking temperatures and working with us. I think the proper term is preserving the dignity of the child, okay? And we, the principals have worked hard to make sure that we will have an isolation area if they're sick. But then, if a child is sick enough to go home from school, normally you'd see your doctor. And then, we will respect your doctor's opinion, because we are not going to, we're not going to step out of our lane, so to speak. And dare I say, we have enough on our plate in terms of making sure we deliver the instruction that the children need. So, in consultation with your doctor, and, the doctor sends a note, we give it to the nurse. And I think that the biggest thing is, every time someone sneezes, we don't want to panic.
Right.
And you're going to see it in the paper tomorrow and the next day, schools that have reopened already, or schools that are reopening on Long Island, are starting to have issues. And, people run to News 12, and that certainly doesn't help the situation. So to answer the question about, we will respect the doctor's note, we will respect and we want you to work with our nurses to make sure certain things. I know allergies sometimes present with a fever. There can be, when you're getting a tooth, can present with a fever. And I think, the more communication, like in those kinds of situations with our nurse, because, like I said, I've seen our nurses do some pretty amazing things, from finding a child who lost a tooth on the floor in the elementary school, which is, I had never seen that before, to, kids holding their head while they're throwing up. And even in these times, our nurses have not backed off. Our nurses want to be there, and, we will always respect the medical professionals' notes, and, we'll work together. And we again, preserve the child's dignity. Because if a child does have a cold, we don't want them to come back and have kids go, ooh, I don't want to sit near you because
Right.
you have COVID, so.
So now, what if we opt to not bring them to a doctor? Because just as a parent, you can tell by your child, how sick are they? You're going to keep them home, you're going to observe them. Okay, does Motrin bring down the fever? Will it break the next day? Can we send them in without a note, as long as we see that they don't have any symptoms? Or now, are they, since they were in a quarantine room, are now the nurse going to say, okay, we need something?
If you do wind up in the quarantine room, then we're going to have to work with the Department of Health on that. And quite frankly, in our plan, we put a link up, because the Department of Health, their guidelines, their answers have changed from week to week. That's a very specific question that would be dealt with, I think, in a one-to-one you know?
Okay.
Because we don't, honestly, it would depend on the fever, it would depend on the symptoms.
Yeah, because I've had my son, both my kids, they've gone to school, they seem perfectly healthy in the morning, and then by the time I come pick them up at 3:40, they're all sluggish, and they pass out on the couch, and I find out they're spiking 104 out of nowhere. And then the next day, they're back to normal, 97. So it's just those random, it'll come and go as fast as,
And again, being the father of 3 boys and knowing each one is an individual, that's where I'd say the conversation with our nurse has to take place.
Okay.
Because then our nurse would say, listen, on the safe side, you better take them to the doctor. And I think you're going to hear a lot of that this year. But that's a very, very specific question. But the broad-based answer is if a child's sick, they go to the doctor, they bring in a note, says no COVID, you don't need a COVID test, then you're back. For specific things like that, I would work directly with our medical people.
And then can I just ask one more quick one? It just came up as I was sitting here. If after we start school, and let's say our kids are getting sick a little more frequently, we're finding we're keeping them home, can we opt to fully keep them virtual, even though we had chosen to do hybrid?
That's saved by the bell. That's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. It would be very easy for me to sit here and say no right now,
Okay.
because, and the simple answer is no. But there are exceptions to every rule. There could be medical things going on that would force us into that situation. So, as tough as it is, and I understand, communication from my office has to, get clearer. That's where the relationship between the parent, the principal, the school district, the doctor, guidance counselor, school social worker, let's get to the bottom of it. If your child is getting run down, getting sicker, and we see it, then it's
Just like kids get sick 10 to 12 times a year. So we see kids, my kids have gotten sick once a month while they were in school full-time.
And again, having 3 boys, some got sick, one got sick, one never
Whole
got
house
sick.
goes down. Yep.
So we really, when it comes to individual things like that, you need to be speaking with our nurse, with the school administrators, and come up with an individual plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alana. I was here last week. I did not have the pleasure of speaking with you, Mr. Dolan, though I did have a long speech prepared for you last week, but I'll set it aside. So I want to begin with the committee that should have been put together. I'm going to read right now to refresh your mind from the New York State Governor's Office. It said, responsible parties must engage with school stakeholders and community members, e.g. administrators, faculty, staff, students, parent legal guardians of students, local health departments, etc., when developing reopening plans. Plans for reopening should identify the groups of people involved and engaged throughout the planning process. So my question for that is, I would like to see, in accordance with the guideline, the roster of the people that were on this reopening committee and the roster of the ongoing committee you have for reopening. I think that would hopefully set all of our minds at ease to see these names that we would like to see on there. Secondly, I would like to know what the policy is for reporting positive cases. Third, in regard to what's been brought up just now and many times, the Suffolk County guidance on students who have had illnesses that have similar symptom profiles to COVID should follow existing school policy for return. It is recommended that staff and families consult with their medical provider for guidance. So it is up to you, Superintendent Dolan, or the building principals. I'm not sure about the structure in the school itself, but it is up to you because they said to refer to existing school policy. Now, my son will be going into RCK. The current policy from RCK is that students who have screened positive for COVID-19 symptoms can return to the in-person learning environment at school with documentation from a healthcare provider, a negative COVID-19 diagnostic test, symptom resolution, or if COVID-19 positive, released from isolation. So I'd just like confirmation that which policy is correct. What you've stated, that it won't be required to have a COVID test, which is, believe me, I wish it was not, but it is extremely invasive. I've had it, the nasal swabs, throat swabs. I can't put my 8-year-old through that. He will never go to a doctor again. Also, just to go back to what I said about notification, RCK's policy is just that they will notify the wider community, will not notify the wider community unless specifically directed to do so by local public health officials. I know there's HIPAA issues, privacy issues, dignity issues, so I would like to know what the policy is on reporting. Fourth, I've heard about mask breaks, which children will need if they'd like a sip of water, if they'd like to move around. I want to know if there's going to be a school-wide, district-wide policy on mask breaks, or if this is going to be left up to the teachers to decide what they feel comfortable with. I'm not going to say where I fall on that, but I would just like to know. Sixth, I just wanted to concur about the Gators, that I don't see conflicting evidence. Is there strong evidence that Gators are going to spread COVID? No, but there is evidence that they're not effective. Also concurring about the paper forms. If you're expecting us all to have paper forms, mail us some paper forms. I'd also like to know that if I choose to get my paper form laminated or put it in a dry erase sheet so that I can reuse it, if that would be acceptable, because that would something that would certainly save everybody money and time, and plastic can be clean, much more effective than paper. There's no clock telling me to be quiet, so I won't be quiet. Also, my final question would be, we have teachers there we go. We have elementary teachers, so my son is in cohort 2. His teacher is doing virtual Mondays. In October, it's going to be teaching in person Mondays and virtual. Then 2 days of virtual learning with in-person learning. Then 2 days of virtual learning and in-person learning. When is the teacher supposed to prepare this virtual material? Are they supposed to do this at home? Are they supposed to do this on their lunch break? When is the teacher being given time to do something that is very challenging, which is preparing virtual material? Those are my questions.
All right, we working backwards. We are working with the leadership of the Teachers Association to ensure that the teachers have the time. Laminated sounds like a good idea to me, and I'm not trying to make light of this. And
So like he can flash it out. And hands it?
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, dry erase sheets. Put it in there.
And I did say, could we get through the first week and we will run off a bunch of them? That seems to be more than fair. The mask breaks, that one, I personally have struggled with, because knowing the individual children and, watching kids at our, at our summer program, at the summer camp, and just watching kids in general. That's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. I think,
And that's exactly my question. Is this going to be teacher by teacher? Is it going to be grade by grade, school by school, district? I just want to know when the protocol will be put in place, because you are required to have a protocol and mask breaks.
Well, as of right now, we're saying masks are on until the direction of the teacher, because during class time, it can depend on the lesson also. And I know that this is going to be a tough part, because you're going to have 12 different people in your room, and you could be working on something, and, one of the students feels the need for a mask break. And that's where the teacher is going to have to use their professional skill and professional judgment, because 11 kids might be flying along, and you might have to take that one
I would urge you to take a look at, I know we've all looked at many different programs. Connecticut District has a very simple 4-line mask protocol that's basically a decision tree for the teachers. I would suggest that you browse that and maybe speak to the superintendent there.
It's my home district, very familiar with Connecticut.
Excellent. Go have brunch with them and they can tell you about their mask protocols.
Okay. Trying to make sure I wrote these down. As far as the, and I think, and this is very possible, I may have misspoken, we're going to work with your medical professional. If we think you have COVID, you have to go get a test.
Right, but there's the symptoms of the common cold and the symptoms of just a stomach flu overlap. So that's my question is, do they need a negative COVID-19 test to return to school because they had a cough?
No, what I had said before to the previous person was, if you especially you go to your doctor and your doctor says, no, this is allergies, cold, stomach flu.
Okay.
No,
So then you need
we-
to speak to the building principals because that is currently in RCK's reopening plan.
Okay, I didn't see that, but I'll look.
I have it right here, I can show it to you.
Okay, no, I don't, I'm not doubting you, okay? I'm not doubting you. We will, we'll take care of that. Positive case reporting, we just had this, actually yesterday, we had a false start. We had but we did, as Dr. Bells is our COVID, person, and simply said, hey, call Department of Health and find out if this rises to the level where we have to do something. And, after talking to the employee, then talking to the Department of Health, we realized they told us we were within compliance and we were doing what we're supposed to do.
So is there a protocol in place, or is this just an ad hoc decision to be made case by case?
No, the protocol is we're going to call the Department of Health and say, this is the situation we're in. What do we have to do in terms of reporting, contact tracing, and everything else?
Okay. They have that information. That information is available. Okay. Committee, are we going to be able to get a roster of the committee?
Yeah, and again, that falls in me. I chose to work with the unit heads and the PTAs, and quite frankly, a lot of ideas, and it wasn't really until the beginning, really the first week in August when we got our marching orders. There was a lot of talk, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of ideas, so I'll put that together.
You will put together a roster of the, and is that committee still meeting?
Not officially, not right now.
Okay, is there a plan to create a committee? Because I think that's something that...
I think that's going to be something in September that we open up, and I'll open it up to a bigger pool.
Okay, I look forward to seeing that roster, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Dolan, the initial group that met will be meeting monthly to review the plan moving forward on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, but I think we'll open it up to a few more people.
Absolutely.
Daisy Moran?
This is Kristen Maloney. Hi, how are you doing? Just actually want to have make a statement. A lot of my questions were answered, but I'm kind of curious with this hybrid learning, how these children are going to react when all of a sudden we're creating a generation of kids who legitimately will get angry because you're typing in capital letters. So I really would like them to get back to a full integrated learning. I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to at this point, but I know that you're working on it. But I do have a question. With the hybrid learning and the online learning, it was a complete horror story back in March when this all started. With children that have certain disabilities, don't really understand it, what is the protocol for any type of extra help? Questions about the assignments that are all due by the end of the day? Is there a protocol that's set up where can you email the teacher and not get an actual answer, not go on this website? All the answers are there. All the instructions are there. Sorry, IXL was horrible. Google Classroom was horrible. You text or email a teacher, and they're, oh no, it's all on the website. No, it's not. You get your assignments at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden you get another assignment added on at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. How are you, as a working parent, supposed to figure out, and your child has already had a meltdown working on one assignment for 3 hours, and you can't get an answer? Oh, you can go on this website, it's all there. I don't know this math at all. I could show them my math, which is all going to be completely wrong. So how do we get our kids the extra help on the days that they're telelearning?
I think the simple answer is, and especially, again, next week is going to be huge because the kids are going to come in, going to meet their teachers. I hate to say it, I did have a fear there for a little while that they were going to tell us to start the year virtually, like some of the, I think Yonkers is doing and a couple other places, and the teachers, the students wouldn't be able to put a physical connection with the teacher, That was, there were a number of things wrong in the spring. And one of them was, we got ripped apart, and I've said this before, we put together, and the teachers worked very hard to put together these packet lessons, and, and they put together a lot of them, and I think that stifled the creativity. I've said that a number of times. But just like with every other school year, some students need more, extra help. Some students need, a little bit more hands-on attention. And by getting into the classrooms, which we didn't have in the spring, and now working together and we've made it very clear today, the social has to marry the technological. And when it comes to extra help, I mean, just like anything else, and I taught for 15 years, but I've seen this in all my years as an administrator. When a child and a teacher, and again, remember, the class sizes are going to be 10, 12, 14 kids, and it's not going to be, 24, 26, 28. The teachers, the child will say to the teacher, I need a little help, or the teacher might say to the child, you need a little help, and this is how we're going to communicate, while you're not here. And they'll be able to, I can see them working out these lines of communication, whether it's an email or whatever, or when they're having trouble, or if the teacher might say, okay, Johnny, move on to the next one, and when you come in on Thursday, I'll help you with this. There's going to be more time during the instructional periods for teachers to, move about and have more. It's easier to have one-on-one time when the smaller classes.
I'm just a little concerned because they start on Tuesday. I'm part of the second cohort, so I'm Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
There's going to be something that's going to be listed on a website. You go here, do this, and they're going to be looking at like, I have no idea, I've never learned this before.
Well, the message we put out was in the first week, we wanted to be more kind of getting to know you stuff, or, we're not looking to, do quadratic equations on the first week of school. And I don't mean, I'm not making light.
Right.
This is, it's interesting. There's got to be a chance for the teachers and the students it's going to have to happen quicker, because we are facing the specter of what if they do shut us down again. And we have to go to that virtual world. We can't go back to the virtual world of last spring. So, especially the month of September has got to be about developing that bond. And the students and the teachers, like I said, if a child needs extra help, the teachers do give extra help. So they'll schedule it, arrange it, and work it through.
As long as there's some protocol, because honestly, last year, there was no such thing as extra help. Oh, it's on this website. Oh, it's on this classroom. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
Now, you can go to this website and learn it yourself and teach it to your child.
There were a number of things. I cringe a little bit because I do know some very good people, and there was extra help being given, and sometimes, the first line is, the first step is to say, hey, it's right here, go try this. And then if that doesn't work, sometimes the person who needs the extra help doesn't speak up and say, no, I need a little more. And that's why, and we had lost the personal connection in the spring.
Oh, the person that needed the extra help was having a full-on meltdown, falling off of the chair on the floor.
Again, that's why we're very cognizant of the fact that September has to be, especially those first couple of weeks, because God forbid, if things go south and go bad, we need to make sure that we've developed relationships. And, oh, by the way, if things go well and we can get back together sooner rather than later, it'll be all the better as the year goes on.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, they need, students, and I used to say this to the kids all the time, and it's not easy, but part of learning is, teachers actually like it when kids ask questions. And so, a lot of times, sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And so encourage the children to ask the teachers the questions, and especially on the days that they're in school, that classroom is not going to be as crowded. So they're going to have more access on those days to the teachers. So hopefully that will set up the days that they're not in for, a better experience.
All right, just as long as there's some line of communication between the teachers and the students that are having difficulties. That's my big concern.
Well, we're going to do our best to keep it open.
All right, appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daisy Moran.
Hi, my name is Daisy. I have a couple of questions. My first time here, so I'll be a little nervous, sorry. So I'm just a little concerned because it seems like there's not going to be much flexibility for parents to switch from hybrid to virtual if they don't feel comfortable once the students start school. It seems like the board wants us to be very flexible with all the plans and decisions that are being made, but we won't have the flexibility. And that's a little concerning, especially when the deadline for the virtual passed without us having an actual plan or, some type of guidance of what the full-on virtual is going to look like. I don't know if I had chosen virtual, would my daughter have the same teacher as the teacher that's in the classroom, or we should have a different teacher that will give her some one-on-one time to ask questions. So that's my first concern. Because we're like making decisions based on fear, not actual facts and a plan. Because how can I have a deadline without a plan? That to me doesn't make any sense. Also, I haven't seen a plan for the virtual kids, full-on virtual kids yet. Will that ever come out? Because the deadline passed. So I know that the state has some guidelines for traveling. For my job, I travel. So if you travel to a state that's put on the quarantine, is our child going to have to report to the school that the parent has traveled and also be quarantined? And if so, are the kids going to be able to switch back to be full-on virtual during that period of time? Just because the parents are being told to do so. I'm not clear on what the guideline is going to be, if there is an indication of a positive case in a classroom, because we know it takes a couple of days for people to show symptoms. So by the time that you find out whether or not someone has COVID-19, other kids in the classroom might have it, even though you're isolating them. So is the whole classroom going to have to be isolated? If you bring your kid to the doctor says, yeah, you should get them tested, what happens? Do you notify the whole classroom? Listen, someone might have COVID-19, everybody should get tested, please stay home. That's a little unclear to me as well. And my last question is for a friend. Her daughter's going into kindergarten, and she wants to know if kindergartners are going to be fully paperless. Are you guys going to be providing all the assignments and dittos for them? Or are they going to have to print everything out at home? That's it. Thank you.
All right, no, just hang in there for a minute. Well, the paperless thing we're going to look into, because that's new. As far as I'm working backwards now, positive case notification, we are, unfortunately, we are going to find out tomorrow about a couple of, one of our neighboring school districts that had a teacher who was tested positive, who was in school for a couple of days for professional development, and what they're going to be told in terms of quarantining. We also know that there's a district, one of our neighboring districts, where during preschool activities, there was an activity on the property, a student tested positive, and 5 teachers and 20 students are now being told they have to quarantine unless they get a negative COVID test. So we are starting to see hard answers to these questions. So we will, again, follow the guidelines. And your question, I believe, was if one child in the class tests positive, we're certainly going to make the appropriate notifications, and with the guidance of the local health officials, it may in fact mean that the whole class has to go into quarantine. And then we would have to make a decision based on, if it's that 14-day quarantine, would the class then begin to receive, instruction through Google the way you would if you were homesick with a broken leg, But again, unfortunately, there was an awful lot, there's a tremendous amount of ideas and information out there, but tomorrow morning I will be on with the phone with two people who are going to tell me exactly what they're going through because of situations it's not exactly the classroom situation, but like I said, two of our neighboring districts have already, are going to come under this microscope, and we will learn from their experience. But like I said, once we find out about a positive case, we're going to call the local health officials, and we're going to ask them to walk us through whatever their latest plan is. Because when this first hit, I can tell you those plans changed from morning to afternoon. Traveling with the quarantine, again, unfortunately, the answer is yes, you're going to have to quarantine, but there are rules where there is certain travel where there are exceptions. What I would ask is, please be honest with us, and if you travel and you're supposed to quarantine, but you have an exemption, if you let us know, we would then talk to the Department of Health to make sure that we're not putting people at risk in the building. But I'm going to err on the side of caution and say if you travel to a state and it's a quarantine state, and you come home and have close contact with your child, then they're going to have to quarantine also.
But the kids will be allowed to go on the virtual lessons while they're in quarantine. They won't miss out in school.
There'll be the Google Classroom or, whatever the protocol would be. If we have, it's a 10-day window before we give you home, and it wouldn't be home instruction, but you'd be able to get the work off of the Google Classroom. As far as the virtual plan, I knew that was going to be a tough one. I apologize. But it is, we do have a smaller percentage of people that opted for the hybrid. We were somewhat flexible with the deadline.
But there's no plan. I chose the hybrid because
Well,
I
no,
didn't
no,
want to
the
get stuck
plan
with
is-
virtual until January.
No, right now the plan is that they're going to follow along in Google Classroom. And we now that we have hard numbers and hard, numbers by grade, we have a couple of tough decisions to make, but no, we cannot promise that your virtual teacher, if we come back to school in January, will be the same teacher that you will have in the classroom.
So
In fact, it probably will not be.
if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying the kids that will go virtual 5 days a week will have the same teacher and will follow the teacher that's in the classroom with the hybrid kids.
Not necessarily right now.
So we don't know. So there's no
No.
plan. We don't know who's going to be their teacher, right? We don't know if they're going to get a one-on-one to be able to ask questions, or they're just going to be spectators.
Oh, no, there'll be a teacher, and we might have to hire teachers to do it. That's,
But school starts next week, and you asked us for a deadline last week, and a commitment until January. These are our kids, our lives. We have to plan around this, and I know it's hard. I get it, It's just, we need a little more than that.
that's why we were,
Maybe we should push school back since we have no plan, no direction, no teachers, no set school time.
we're ready.
Or at least be a little more flexible, it was upsetting to me to hear that you want to say no if you want to switch back from hybrid to virtual.
We have been accommodating and flexible with that deadline just for this reason. We'll continue to listen and be flexible with the deadline until we have a hard and fast plan.
Okay.
But we have, I hate to say it, we have a very tough decision to make. How are we going to finally deliver the virtual? And I will tell you, the governor said one thing, but we could make it a very bare bones program that would not be good for kids. So we're trying to balance that. And again, the people that need the full virtual will follow the Google Classroom for September. And, if they're not happy in October, they can come see me and I'll make a decision. And if they want to come back in, we will put them back in.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Good evening. I have a couple of questions. Some things were answered, some things were not even touched upon. But the thing that concerns me is I have 2 children in the district, and I contemplated whether putting them full virtual or the hybrid. I know that going back to school is obviously the most important thing. I can agree with it, providing that the safety measures are put in place to make sure that the children are safe. With that being said, I'd like to know what science was conducted that all of a sudden now we're allowed to have these gator masks in school.
I like to address the gators, and I don't want to make it a...
Bias?
What's that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen, if anyone knows me, I don't ever make a decision without looking into something 50,000 times. So that's what I do as a teacher as well. I teach a course where students take, it's a research course, and they don't take the very first thing that they learn and just go with it. Duke University did a study on the gators. Everybody knows what we're talking about, correct? That professor who did that study 10 days ago in the Duke Chronicle said his study was misconstrued and misinterpreted. It wasn't a research study. The people in his laboratory did it on the weekends. They gathered masks from each other.
It's wearing a t-shirt over your face.
But
there is no safety features in me going like this and walking into my school.
A cloth
I
mask.
can blow through my shirt.
Bill, do you have another scientific thing that you could share with us?
If I can blow through my shirt, I can blow through. I wear gator masks because I appease people in public. That's what it is. I do not wear them out. I would not wear. You can't wear them into a hospital. You can't wear them into a doctor's office. You can't wear them into any medical facility. So why are we allowed to all of a sudden let our children, that it's an untapped market for the past 8 months, now we're just going to say, hey, listen, you guys are now allowed to wear gator masks. Regardless, we're adults. You want to make your decision? That's fine. You can wear one. But I don't think that it's appropriate, nor is it safe for our children to be wearing gator masks because they're not safe. They're not. What science?
Again, based on what exactly?
No,
This is why I didn't want to engage in the back and forth, because we could go back and forth all day long.
Well, I
I'm
think
just saying that
that's what we're really here for, is for answers.
All right,
I mean,
the evidence
people
does
are
not-
asking
the
questions
evidence
and then
does
waiting
not
till the
show-
end and they're not getting answered.
The evidence does not show that they're ineffective. That's not the case. The Duke University study did not show that. They weren't even studying the efficacy of the mask.
Let's just look around. I just want to let's look around and see who's wearing a gator mask besides you. Let's look around and let's see who's wearing a gator mask.
That's all anecdotal.
Okay. This is a very small majority. I don't think they're safe, and I don't think that we should go back. I mean, if you're, Mr. Dolan, if you're saying that the safety of our kids is one of the number one priorities, wearing a gator mask, I don't care if people bought them or not, go out and buy other masks. We're here to keep our kids safe. That's why we're putting 11 kids in a class to 14 kids in a class. If we're not trying to keep our kids safe and we don't want to wind up where we're going to be in 6 months ago, I think that we should take every necessary precaution to keep our kids safe. And what happens when parents go to the doctor and say, hey, listen, I'm going to get a doctor's note so my child doesn't have to wear a mask? What's going to happen then? Are you going to honor that 60% of kids that wind up coming in with doctor's notes saying that my child doesn't need to wear a mask? How is that situation going to be handled? I'm curious to know about that. Because that's not going to be one of my kids, I can tell you that right now. But if my son or my daughter has to wear a mask, which everybody, let's just face it, everybody hates wearing a mask, why do those children, why do they not have to wear one? And where are the guidelines, where are the cutoff lines going to be that any parent just can't go to the doctor and get a doctor's note saying that, you know what, it's not in your child's best interest to wear a mask to school?
In terms of the doctor's notes, we met with our school physician. I actually had a chance to speak to him myself. Doctors are not going to be writing those masks and be writing those notes. And if they do, we're going to have a tough fight on our hands, because we believe, and we've been told that some sort of face covering is important.
Is required.
Yeah, and.
So
and-
are those children going to be put into a separate class where just the non-mask kids are going to wear masks?
As of the date, we don't have any of those notes out, do we?
I mean, these are things that you guys should really be planning on because.
Oh, no, we're gonna look to, and I don't want to turn this into a fight with the people running to their doctors, but I think that they need to come into school with the face coverings. That's what we've been told, and they'll wear the masks, and we'll fight that battle if somebody wants to take us on. I hope that they're respectful, because we don't have the resources to have if you can't wear that mask, and again,
I understand that some children have underlying health
I
conditions.
understand that too, but if your conditions are that bad, you probably shouldn't be in school.
I agree.
That's tough for me to say, because I want every kid, I want every kid back in school as soon as possible when it's safe. But when it comes, a doctor's note like that, my response is going to be, let's talk to our doctor, because if it's that bad, you shouldn't be here. Because I do believe that our teachers and our support staff, like I said, some kids are going to need, period by period, regular, they're going to have to walk outside, or they're going to have to be walked outside by an adult. And some kids are
Take it
going
off.
And some kids are going to put the mask on and wear it all day, and nobody's going to, and not going to say a word.
Right.
So, but I don't see, there's an incongruity between someone saying, I can't wear a mask, I'm so sick I can't wear a mask, then you shouldn't be in school, where, we do know that there are risks, and we're trying to mitigate the risks. So the answer is, they'll deal with that doctor on that.
So they won't be allowed to sit in class with other children who are actually wearing masks, is what you're saying.
You're putting me on the spot.
I am.
Legally,
I
but-
I want answers because
my
honestly,
answer
after
is-
hearing this,
I just said to you, we are going to say you have to wear a mask, and we will take the position
okay.
that if you're not healthy, and if you can't wear the mask, then you're not healthy enough to be in school.
Well, it may not necessarily be like healthy whether I'm sick or not. It may be they have asthma, or
Yes,
they may have a
yeah.
sensory issue, and they may have anything under the sun that, I don't want to go into details, but, if you have a sensory issue or asthma or anything else, there are certain things and certain diagnoses that may possibly.
And if perhaps we would do, that would fall under, we would have to make, I would believe we could make some sort of accommodation where you could wear it.
Right.
And, if you have to wear it for 5 minutes and take it off for 5 minutes, we'll figure out a way to get you to walk outside and take it off and come back in. It's going to have an impact on your education, no doubt about it.
I think everything at this point is going to have an impact on their
Absolutely.
education.
But we cannot condone or support not wearing a mask.
Honestly, I really just want to go back to the whole Gator thing. How do we go about that not being allowed in school? Because it's literally like wearing a T-shirt or a bandana over your mouth.
It's also a choking hazard if there's a fight in a school. As a dean, I'll tell you that. If two kids in a high school get in a fight, and I've got a gator I can grab, it's a choking hazard.
That's something I never even thought of, but I'll tell you one thing, if I was in a fight, that would probably be the first thing that I would grab too.
Sounds like that's coming up.
Well, you can say it.
I mean, these are things that we need to consider. There are things that we've never needed to consider before in the past. Never mind the fact that they're really not safe, but now it being almost used as a weapon or a tool, I think that they should be reconsidered.
I think I can make you this promise, that after this meeting, we're going to have some conversation. As you can imagine, I mean, this one is a hot-button topic. This is another example of how divisive this disease is, because there are people out there that, look, I think we finally pushed back the people that thought we could come back to school and not wear masks at all, because there were a large number of those. Now it's the face shield, I'm going to call it, whether it's a gaiter or a mask. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but this one is a hot button topic and could be very divisive amongst the community, because there are, I can feel the split. So we're going to have some more conversation about it, but, this is another one where, as I've said before, hopefully we can find a way to get everybody to unite, but I will tell you this is that people are bitterly divided about these
I
face
think
guards.
that in order to get people united, what we really need to do is everybody ultimately wants their children back in school as much as they possibly can. So for those people who don't want masks and want to send their kids back 5 days a week, that's a pipe dream at this point right now. Because honestly, if you look at it, you see Oneonta closed, colleges are going to be closing all over the place because they're not following guidelines, and these are 18 to 21-year-old adults that are supposed to be following these guidelines. I think what we really need to do is we need to be strict, because if we're not, we're going to wind up where we were in March with the online learning, which was an absolute disaster, which everybody would agree, because there was no online learning. There was no visual live sessions. That's what we need. And honestly, I want my kids to be in school. I own my own business. I closed my business, and everybody works from home right now, including myself. So now I want my children to obviously go to school as much as they can, not because I need to work, but because they need to learn, because they've missed so much. I don't think we're in a point where we need to take chances. I think we're at a stage right now where we need to dot our I's and cross our T's to make sure that everything is covered. And, going back on the fact of not allowing gator masks, then allowing gator masks, I think that every precaution should be taken at every expense possible.
And, well said, and we all agree. And, the one thing that I think conversations like these have brought out is that there was a tremendous call for, let's go back full-time, no masks, and that honestly seems to have disappeared. So now, instead of, the battle is no longer on 3 fronts, now we're trying to unite 2 fronts. And let's see if we'll have a little more conversation about the Gators. We'll continue to have conversation about the way we do things. And again, it's gonna be big. Mr. Montori I want to make sure he had alluded to last week, he wanted to know in public how we were going to handle kids in school that don't wear masks. Or if, a kid walking down the hall takes his mask off, what's the teacher or the security guard going to do? And I said, Phil, it's going to be, we're going to treat it just like we would any other misbehavior. Hey, Johnny, put your mask up. And if there's a problem and the child refuses, then, they would be treated like any other kid misbehaving in the hall. And quite honestly, if they refuse to wear their mask for no other reason than they don't feel like it, then they will be, they will not be welcome in school. So we've had these discussions. We're hoping, and, honestly, I've seen hope, because I remember at the beginning of the summer, I would see the kids in 7-Eleven and places like that, and I was seeing no masks. Now I'm actually seeing kids riding bikes with masks. I'm seeing kids out by the field, doing their thing and then putting them on. But we will have some more discussion about the types of mask, but we're no longer talking about not wearing them overall, which I think is a step in the right direction.
Listen, I know you're in the hot seat, but this is something that needs to be addressed. I mean, some kids go back to school on Tuesday. Fortunately, my kids don't go back till Thursday, so I may have a little bit more time. But I mean, these are pressing issues that are really, it's going to determine whether some parents send their children to school. And you don't want that. You don't want them picking the virtual and then finding out that, hey, listen, now now the guidelines and everything else has lessened, weakened, and now they're allowed to wear certain things. And we need to be here and stay here and only get a little bit more strict. So I don't want to wind up back in March. I want the kids in school. So I truly feel like these things need to be addressed ASAP.
Okay. Listen, I'm not going to get much sleep this weekend.
No, you probably haven't gotten much sleep at all.
Well, not in a bad way. It's look, again, people like you coming to the microphone and people sitting in the audience tonight coming to the microphone.
Well, I've watched it with my wife, and I said after hearing what's going on, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm getting in the car. Raining. I went to one door, it was locked. Went to the other door, standing in the rain. I didn't even really care. But I think certain things need to be addressed, and it's not like we have weeks. Like, our kids go back to school in a week. My son and daughter will be in school a week from today. I want to feel comfortable that You, the principal, the teachers, they have a plan, they have it put into action, and we know, like, are we getting paperwork home that says, hey, listen, this is the guidelines, this is what's happening? I mean, are we going to get anything saying what the kids are doing? I know the other day that the school did a walkthrough and some of the kids did, a typical day in what it's like, but that leaves a lot out. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to know as parents.
We have the plan up on the website, we have the frequently asked questions, we have video up from the principals. The kids are doing their orientations. And again, what I'm hearing very clearly is I'm going to have to make sure that there's a regular message coming out.
Yeah.
And again, it'll have to be something, in writing. And, I keep hearing, and this is interesting, I was reading the paper the other day, and there were comments about West Islip that sounded eerily like the comments I'm hearing in here today. And I do know in our cohort of superintendents, Bayport, West Islip, from Bayport to West Islip, up to the North CI, Brentwood, there are 11 of us in the town of Islip. We've been talking regularly about this because there are plans out there. We all have plans. The problem is, things are changing so, from day to day, we're getting new directives, new things, and now all of a sudden, yes, we're 11 school districts, but it's amazing, there are a lot of similarities, but the internal differences, whether, everything from resources to political structure, attitudes of the town, beliefs of the community, that's this is a point where local control is not helping us.
No.
If we had during times of like this, I love the local control, except in times of an emergency, because, the conversations that are being had with my colleagues is, all right, let's get to we desperately want to get to opening day. We want to get to that first week. We want to see what's out there, what's working, and we've already pledged that at the end of that first week, we're going to share with each other, because, we are similar to for the other, it's interesting how the cohort has broken out in Islip in terms of how we're handling this. And I will say one of the ones that we're mirroring is West Islip, and look.
Is West Islip going? Do they have the virtual plan?
They are West Islip ourselves. West Islip. What?
Full day, 5 days. So.
Wait, hold on a second. No, they're not.
Every other day.
No, West Islip is hybrid they're similar to us, hybrid. They're going to try to get everybody in at the beginning of October. Islip Elementaries are, yes, they are.
Yes.
Very different, again, Islip and Connecticut, if you want to stay, I could give you all the reasons why they are, and, but I'm not going to get into that. You want to stay after with me? I will.
Honestly, if they were able to go 5 days, I'm sure you would wind up doing it, but you don't have the accommodations for 5 days. You don't have the space for 5 days in order to separate the kids and be safe. So do what you need to do in order to keep the kids safe, not what the community is going to dictate to you because they're both working parents. I don't think that we should be dictated by two people that have to go to work, and I'm certainly not going to wind up jeopardizing the welfare of my child because someone else has to work or their family has to work. I think that you need to make the accommodations in order to do what's good for you, not what, I'm not going to trust anybody about this app, about putting in their temperature in the morning. I'm not going to also trust my child going to school in someone else's hands. Because, in all honesty, if we really wanted to take kids' temperatures, we should take them at like 10:30 in their class, when everybody's working, the teacher walks around, boom, 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 boom. They go around, there's 10, 11 kids in the class, and then they can just very nicely call the nurse, say, hey, listen, we got a situation over here, and then we send somebody down to the nurse's office. Is that difficult? I mean, you don't want to ostracize the kid, I can understand that, but I think that we should take the necessary precautions to keep our kids safe. I mean, if you go to Comac, they have those scanners that you walk through, and they take your temperature as soon as you walk through. Given the district has a hell of a lot more money, and I understand that they're able to do a lot more things, but I think that we should emulate a district that is doing the right thing, and maybe we have to improvise to get those precautions handled the right way.
And again, like I said, everything we're doing, we're going to evaluate it daily, weekly. The only problem with and I loved your idea about taking it during the day, and we will, take them if we're suspicious, but if it's 11 o'clock and we're taking their temperature, they've already been in school for 2, 3, 4 hours with other people, and they've already...
But don't you think that, I mean, that's when kids get sick. I mean, I put my kid on the bus. If he looks a little queasy, I'm going to keep him home. I can't tell you how many times, I've sent my son or my daughter to school, and then an hour or 2 hours after they're there, they're like, oh, I got a stomach ache, and I get a call from the nurse's office, and my wife and myself have to go pick him up.
Look, one of the things I know for sure, in just speaking to people, just, especially the last couple of days walking around, it used to be, kid, Mrs. Jones, I don't feel so well, I might want to go to the nurse. Oh, Johnny, stick it out, you'll be okay, we're doing math right now, you got to be here. I don't think you're going to hear that this year. The minute I think we're going to have a bigger issue with every time someone sneezes, people are going to be holding their breath.
There's going to be everybody's going to be on alert, there's going to be a zero tolerance.
And we did give the principals for the buildings extra thermometers, because we do believe that during the day, there's going to be a lot more temperature taking, because and rightfully so. I think the minute someone feels concerned about a child, or even, themselves as an adult, so we gave the packages out the other day to the principals, so the thermometers are there, ready to go if needed.
Okay.
So, and again, we agree, we want them back in school safely as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, safety is just my number one concern. I just want you to keep them safe, and also for the teachers as well, because once they get used to their teacher, it's going to be a difficult year enough for them. The last thing we need is to have a sub come in for 2 weeks and then them get sick again and then another 2 weeks. We need consistency for our children. We need to keep everybody safe, and that really needs to be the number one priority. All right?
Agreed.
Well, be well.
Thank you, you too, thank you.
Hello, everybody. As you may have heard, I am a teacher in West Islip School District. I'm also a union delegate for my building. So I've been in the trenches with all of you. I know exactly what's going into all these plans, what has been happening, what has been speaking. A lot of my questions have been answered. I spoke to Mr. Dolan. He was kind enough 3 times this summer. I did speak to Mr. Carpluck as well, addressing some concerns. And as I'm sitting here, there's some things that I wanted to express. And one of them was that we've already experienced COVID in my home. My husband had it, and none of us got it. Nobody tested positive for antibodies. Very interesting right there. He is a city firefighter and went through his whole firehouse. Interesting enough, I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not afraid to go to teach in my classroom. I am ready to go. I am excited. However, I feel that some of these things that are going on here in this district, and I moved here not to live in West Islip because that's where I grew up and I'm teaching, but I moved to get away to a district that has a very good reputation. The lack of communication is disturbing. I'm getting lots of my information from Facebook groups, which you have already heard before, from other moms that I am friends with, and that really is disturbing. I'm actually pleased with the communication that my district has had. We've had slide presentations. We've even had a nurse from Good Samaritan Hospital Zoom with our district, explain to us the guidelines, exactly what would happen with quarantine issues. Yes, we know you have to contact the DOH. Yes, we know that that all gets involved with the Suffolk County Executive and his rules. We've also, the question about remote and hybrid. That is very disturbing to me. I've been doing a lot of research as I'm in the trenches with all of you, and I became very knowledgeable about this over the summer. I do know 40% of the curriculum is covered by a hybrid model. I'm doing it as well in West Islip. We are hybrid for 3 weeks. We were able to get sneeze guards. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll be going full-time, K through 8. I feel confident. We're getting lots of cleaning supplies, disinfectants, hand sanitizers. Some buildings a little lack than others, but it's coming in. Millions of dollars have been spent with this. That hybrid model, for right now, my children are only going to school on Thursday and Friday. I have a high schooler, I have a 6th grader, a 9th grader, a 6th grader, and a 4th grader. My 4th grader right now does not want to go to school because she said she can't stay on a computer for 3 days and only go to school 2 days. She actually wants to go to Catholic school. I looked into St. Mary's. There's a wait list right now. That hurts me. Her love of education is dwindling. I also want to tell you, which I'm sure you know, a task force. We had 70 members on our task force this summer. It went from unit leaders, teachers, special area teachers, PTA, the administration. It was phenomenal. I don't know what happened where that large task force for teacher input wasn't given. Again, a little disturbing. I'm on both ends. I see it. Like I said, I'm a parent and my teacher, so I know what's been happening. Our district also shelled out Chromebooks years ago, starting in the secondary level. Then it trickled down to the elementary. So a lot of the concerns with Chromebooks right now, it will settle down. Whether it's, the speed of the Chromebooks, the programs, et cetera, it does all come together. So I just want to say that does ease people's minds with that Chromebook usage. Daily robocalls. Over the summer, we were getting constant robocalls, and that was wonderful. We were being informed with that, going back to that lack of communication. Can't we have that constant robocalling? I don't care if I get a call 3 times a day telling us protocol. I want to know, am I filling out Parent Square? Am I filling out a piece of paper for my children's health survey? These are things that we need to work on. My other thing is just really statistics, and it's a little concerning. We hire teachers, and I know that it's a lot of fundamentals going into a district's budget, and I get that. We hire teachers to just teach remote, to reduce that struggle on the classroom teachers. A classroom teacher, and I'm speaking up for them in East Islip, they're wonderful. I've never had a bad experience with classroom teachers here. But we were able to hire just remote teachers. They're permanent substitutes to teach those remote classes. I don't understand how a teacher is going to be able to focus on those children at home, help them somehow during the day, and also be teaching in person. That's a lot on the teacher. I myself set up my hybrid classroom for 3 days. And just having students stare at a computer, it's detrimental to them. I am having paper and pencil work. That's what works for these kids, especially elementary. These are just concerns. I know that this is a struggling time. I know we can't change anything. But what also is disturbing is some statistics that I've been reading up upon on New York State education sites. As I said, I'm keeping very, very informed. And being in my teachers union, I am informed so much during these meetings. And it's a real eye-opener. I've learned a lot. It's very interesting how Cuomo, under the radar, has had meetings with Bill Gates. Not a fan at all of either of them. Bill Gates has also told Governor Cuomo, I'm not going to use choice words about him right now, that if he could get 25% of the school districts in New York State to turn remote, he will be giving funding. That's disturbing. What scares me the most is that our district, and I hope it doesn't, and I pray it doesn't, follows that route. I understand if we go remote, it's because of health concerns, and I get that. But these statistics really do worry me. I'm not a fan of being in the new norm. We have to wear the masks. I get that 100%. Our superintendent said it ourselves. In order for this to work, we have to wear the masks. Again, your questions were already answered, but these are some concerns that I had, and I just feel if you listen to parents, if parents were on this task force, if teachers were on this task force, a lot of this hostility and anger could have really been solved. That's really all I had to say. Thank you. And thank you. As I said, you have a difficult job. I wouldn't want to be in any of your shoes. So I do understand the frustration that you have as well.
No, and again, thank you, Mrs. Olson, and good luck next week. And also, my promise is to work on, I got to figure out a way to, kind of reconnect with the information. So I apologize for that, but thank you guys for being honest about what you need. So
Thank you.
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Sorry to keep your time. Thank you.
Oh, he was put on my mute. Yeah, he's listening too. Sorry, we have Mr. Zachary on the conference call.
It's Mr. Zachary,
So-
I think it's a time delay.
Is there anyone else?
We got?
Ms. Noble speaking, but we did have one email. We just wanted to address some of our questions from the meeting, or
Yeah, you might as well read it.
it's from Christine Lemare. She had a couple of questions regarding Parent Square app. She said that there's nothing on there except right now that the health care form. And she'd like to know if there's a way that we could just use an app instead of having paper, because of germs, she's concerned about germs. And why would we have to do that? Why couldn't we just use a paper version and have that completed? Also, supply list were posted on websites with no changes except for this year. For fourth graders, still needs 5 notebooks, 6 folders, 24 pencils. Why the need for such a high supply when children aren't sharing supplies anymore? Why can't that be lessened? What about masks and sanitizers? Also, just the communication, she feels that she's very frustrated with that. She's only getting information from Facebook, and she appreciated the FAQs, however, it wasn't enough.
Well, can you help out with the Parent Square and supply list?
Parent Square and supply list.
You said something before about the supply, you said this morning about supply
The
list.
supply list, basically, she can pretty much adjust the supply list as she sees fits, basically, since they're going to be taking the supplies back and forth. There's not going to be any sharing of supplies. And as far as Parent Square, right now, it's in its infancy stages. We are going to explore the possibility of doing the health forms on Parent Square in the future. We're trying this out with the paper form for the next few weeks and try to get the students into the routine first. And moving forward, that Parent Square would be a possibility moving forward.
We want to repeat, again, we're not big fans of the paper, and the laminated idea was a good idea. But we're also very concerned about getting people into the building expediently and being able to identify those who did not take their temperature as quickly as possible so we can get them to the nurse's office before they come in contact with too many people. So, anything else, Marie?
Okay, well, thank you all for remaining for the end of the meeting. The next Board of Education meeting will be held on Thursday, September 24th at 8 p.m. And we're going to adjourn.
Sounds good.
Meeting adjourned.